Peace, greetings. We are live. Welcome to True Health Live. Welcome to our second October show. Give thanks for all of you for being here and all of you who have come. For if you're listening on the replay, thank you for downloading. If you're listening, if you're rewatching on YouTube or Facebook or the podcast, thank you for watching. I am Deidre Sully, your host. I'm also joined by my co-host,
Hi.
Anushka. So we actually made it back in 2 weeks. We have not necessarily been on time, but definitely wanted to make sure that we did not miss an opportunity to speak about what's so important. Every year, every month, every day is something, right? Like I feel like it's like eat an apple pie day. But there are some right. I think
Right.
one day it was just like I think I saw something about hug your best friend day, like something
Yes.
that's so nice. At the same time, there's some that deserve a lot more attention than others. And as we all know, October for a very long time now has been designated Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And especially be a woman of a certain age who has finally had like a first, I think last year, our breast cancer show, I did the mammogram. So we talked about that. So, come and think of it, we are due for a mammogram. So, so for those of you who are of that age, so women who are over 40, make sure you are scheduling your mammograms. Like this is what is really important when it comes to screening. We definitely talked about screening and preventive medicine and preventive care, which is definitely a part of public health. For people to know like when they should start activities of screening exercises and screenings for colonoscopies, endoscopies, anything to make sure that you are, just in the clear. And so for women, mammograms is one of them. So if you're a woman who has a history of breast cancer or it runs in your family, or if you're 40 and over, it's really important to schedule that. So that being said, we wanted to make sure that we acknowledged Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we dedicated a show to it. And it just so happens that Anushka has, as we are public health consultants and social entrepreneurs, Anushka's one of your clients was Tiger Lily Foundation, and the program was specifically about breast cancer. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that program, what it meant to you? Just give everybody, you know, some insight to what it is, because for those women who have been diagnosed, if you're a survivor, there are definitely programs out there that you can join to help other women who may have questions or are concerned or scared. It's always good to like find somebody who shares your experience, right?
hmm Absolutely. Thank you, Deidre. So, my former client, Tiger Lily Foundation, is a national breast cancer organization. And I like to think of them as having a global impact because we had women in Africa and across seas who are thriving. And so the entire foundation in itself focuses on breast cancer. But the program I ran was called the Angel Advocacy Program, which stands for Advocate Now to Grow, Empower, and lead through the angel through this program. And really what we do is a comprehensive training program, 5 courses that women go through to become the best self advocate and community advocate that they can be. Once you graduate from the training program, you become an official Tiger Lily Angel Advocate. You then have opportunity to be a public speaker, to join conferences, to really share yourself, your story, and your journey. And uplift your voice through this organization. And so I was very proud to be the director of the Angel Advocacy Program, as well as heading a pilot that we were doing within the program. I met amazing women. We focused on serving Black and Brown women, women of color, because as you may or may not know, we are the ones that are highly affected. Our mortality rate is through the roof when it comes to breast cancer. And unfortunately, we are the ones that are not at the tables making decisions for our treatment. And we deserve to be. Our story deserves to be heard. It deserves to be told. We deserve to be heard. And that way, when we go and speak to our doctors, they are listening to us. We're having bi-directional conversations where our treatment is not just coming from our care team, but we are a part of it. We're part of the decision making process. And so working with the many, many patients at whatever stage they are in this process, if they're going through treatment, if they're survivors, or if even if they're caregivers, it was an amazing, amazing experience, because not only did I learn more about the cause and the disease in itself, but I learned about these women as a whole, right? The whole woman, not just their disease. So what they're going through within treatment, but then are they moms? Are they professionals? How has it affected their day to day life? And it's very inspiring. I myself had my own scare back when in my early 30s. And I have to tell you, 40 years makes the mark where you have to go and do the preventative care. However, if you feel a lump, or if you feel something is going on and you're not 40 years yet and you're younger, do not be afraid to speak up. Go and fight and advocate for yourself and talk to your doctor and make sure that you get a diagnostic test written referral for you. Um, it started off as a primary care visit for me, and my doctor said, "Oh, something feels hard in here. It's not normal." I was super scared, and to be honest with you, that a fear always prevents us from taking the steps we need to take for our health care. It took me a while to get my I got my appointment. It took me a while to attend the appointment. But what motivated me was my daughter, being able to know that I'm doing this for myself, but also for her, because I was a single mom, and what's going to happen. That the scare of not being present for her is what really drove me to the doctors. And luckily, I had a phenomenal care team, and everything came back normal. I was okay. The unfortunate part is, though, not everyone has the same experience. I didn't really have to, I didn't come across any unfairness or biases or racism that particular time, right? My team was very open, honest, bi-directional conversations, and I was a part of the entire process and very on point. But not all of us have that opportunity to have teams that are like that. Sometimes doctors can be dismissive. And so working with Tiger Lily allowed me to not only be a part of the training for women to be advocates, but also allowed me to be on the other side so I can listen and learn and then pour back into the community. And so just encouraging everybody to stay on top of your health, even if you're younger than 40. Young women do get diagnosed with breast cancer. I've had a patient that was in her early 20s. And again, sometimes we are told, like, you're too young, it's nothing. Don't listen. If your body's telling you no, something's not right, you go with that, because we know our body's best.
I'm glad you said that because when we look up the stats and everything, um, women who are at higher risk are they say 50 years and older, which is why the um, screening age, the recommended screening age starts 10 years before. It's like get it checked out, because what you don't want, which is what happens a lot, especially with people of color and people in the Black and African American community, there's a waiting that happens because either it's because they're underinsured, uninsured, don't have primary care physician, and it's like, well, I'm gonna wait till the last minute and then I'll go and to urgent care or the emergency room to see what's wrong, because now I can't take it anymore. But this is why self breast examinations are important, so your body. So as you said, like, listen to your body. Some of us, when you're doing like those self breast examinations, some women have dense tissue, right? So like, this is the other reason why it's important to get the mammogram, and check yourself, because like if you're ever doing like the self breast examination, you might feel something, and you want to make sure that it's not just it's just dense tissue and not something else. And one thing that I remember I was told by the doctor was like, symmetry is good. Sometimes if you might find something on one, check the other, and if it's there, then you're probably okay, but you should still get it checked out and make
Mhm.
sure everything's okay. Because yeah,
Absolutely.
there are 20-year-olds who are diagnosed. This is again why it's important for, if you have a history of, like, in your family, it's important to definitely go for regular screening so that you can catch it early. One thing
Absolutely.
we hear about, people are diagnosed with, not just breast cancer, but colon cancer or prostate cancer. It's sometimes late in the stage because nothing was done. and there was a waiting. So we want to make sure that, especially here at True Health Live, it's like, this is the truth. You have to get it checked out. Yeah.
Absolutely. And for women in their 20s and 30s, they're the most common ones to be diagnosed with breast cancer. And that's under the age of 40. So it's very important to advocate for yourself, and to really take heed to when you feel something that's abnormal.
Yeah.
Also, like approximately 85% of breast cancer occurs in women with no family history of it. So that's something to be cognizant of. And there is like the BRCA testing that you can have done to be preventative as well. You can request it. And I'm glad you brought up the insurance piece of it, because a lot of times either folks are hesitant because they're uninsured, undocumented,
Right.
under resourced. It's all these barriers that are preventing us from getting the care and getting these daily, annual screenings done. However, there's always a way to navigate through the healthcare system, and at times it's difficult, but if there is a community partner, where you reside and you need
Right.
information, utilize them to help you navigate
Mm-hmm.
through the system, because sometimes it's hard to just go to the hospital and talk to someone. Not every hospital has like nurse navigators or patient navigators on site or right then and there, right? But the next best thing is to talk to a community organization that's with it where you live, that can possibly help you navigate and talk to someone, link you to somebody that's in the nearest hospital to you, and that way at least get you the resources that you need, maybe materials and whatnot. But if you do have a lump and you feel something that's abnormal and you go see your doctor, you want to be able to get a diagnostic exam, so a diagnostic screening, because if it's not diagnostic and they think it's routine, it'll get pushed back, and you don't want that.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think like that's what happens a lot to people. It's like, so yeah, there's definitely the uninsured and underinsured, but then there's also, like you said, like if you don't have, the capacity, or know how to advocate for yourself, and you're sitting in front of a physician, you're like, well, he or she knows best. I'm just gonna go with what they say. But sometimes you have to push them, because, like you said, it'll be like, oh, well, it's probably not that serious. And you don't. That's the thing you don't want someone to say to you if there's a problem. And this is not saying like, yes, we should all be hypochondriacs, but if there's something wrong, then it needs to be said there's something wrong. And before it becomes an extreme or exacerbated issue,
mhm,
right? Um,
absolutely.
yeah. I want to say quick in the chat, greetings, Naya. Thank you for joining us. And also, if you have any questions or comments, let them be known. I can see them all. We can see them all on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And I just wanted to BRCA, like for those of you, if you're not aware, if you're watching this and you're not a public health professional or a clinician and you don't know what BRCA is simply the abbreviation. It's an acronym that stands for the first two letters of breast and cancer. So it's your breast cancer gene. So that it's BRCA, BRCA. So if you hear someone say that they're in that specific setting, they're talking about the breast cancer gene.
Yes, absolutely. And then I wanted to touch on something you just said as far as people being able to advocate. It's so easy for us to say, well, advocate for yourself, speak up. And a lot of times, like you said, people don't know how to. And that's not to any fault of their own. Sometimes we're not aware, or our culturally we're
True.
not encouraged to speak up or go against the professionals. I know in the Caribbean community, it's like, no, the doctors know best,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yep.
unless you know better,
Yeah.
we have to
You do
understand.
it all the time. Like it is
Yes,
a position. It's sometimes it's like the psychological thing. Someone who's in a seemingly position of authority. There's a
mhm,
okay, they know best. Not all the time.
right,
A lot of the
right.
time people know what's within their job description and what they're supposed to do on a day-to-day basis,
Mhm.
but not all police officers know the law, right? So like sometimes so that advocating for ourselves means also being well informed.
Yes, well informed. And then also, not being afraid to ask questions and having follow-up questions, because sometimes doctors talk or the healthcare professionals talk a language that we don't as common people understand. And if you don't understand, it is their job to help you understand.
Yeah.
It's the literacy has the medical literacy, you have to understand that, because if I'm explaining it to you and you are my patient and this is your diagnosis and you're like yes 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 yes, but you don't get the words, you don't, if things are not connecting, then that is a disservice to you. So it's
Yeah.
my job to make sure that when you leave my office, whatever I share with you about your health is that you understand and you know what the next steps are. And if you need me to give you examples or if you need me to further break it down, that you are comfortable to ask me that and I can
Yeah.
then do that. That's also part of the job.
Yeah.
um, and a lot of times too, we're fearful, so we don't ask questions. You don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear the what ifs, right? Or the woulda, shoulda, couldas. But I always say to folks too, like if you're a faithful person and you're highly spiritual and you have faith, there's a saying where faith lives, fear cannot. And
Right.
so you want to be able to prevail, right? And so I always encourage folks when I talk to them, especially the young women, you it's a barrier, but once you get on the other side of it and you overcome it, you're going to
Hmm.
feel so much better and you're going to be thankful. You're going to thank yourself that, you know what, I got over that because I believed in what I was thinking, I believed my body, and I got over that, and fear didn't hold me back from asking this question, because believe it or not, that question can make a world of a difference. That clarity you have can make a world of a difference. It can make sure that
Yeah.
you stay on top of your appointments. It can stay on top of like every specialist that you have to see, every healthcare provider that you have to see. So you just build up that courage and understand that doctors, healthcare professionals, they're human too. So they
Yeah.
make mistakes.
Make mistakes.
They make mistakes. And I'll give you my own personal experience. Recently, I was misdiagnosed. And that was from a doctor. And, you know, if I had the mentality of saying, well, the doctors know best, then I wouldn't have questioned the diagnosis. But
Mm.
and if I also went in aware and had knowledge because I work in this space. But even if I didn't, I know my body, right? And I know my past experience. And so it allowed me to question, well, are you sure? You know, what's happening here? And then allowed me to go back to my own doctor and say, let's run this test again. Because I don't feel so, 100% about what this doctor told me.
Right.
But understand sometimes mistakes can happen. So we have to be sure that we stay on top of our own health.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that when you mentioned fear and faith, there's, the acronym for fear, false evidence appearing real. And so this,
Mhm.
by the faith is a knowing. So it has to be much stronger. That knowing is much stronger than fear. So when you walk in faith, you'll walk into that doctor's office and say, this isn't right, something isn't right. Or if there has been a diagnosis, faith that you can choose and select the clinician and physician that's going to work with you and work best with you and has your best interest and your survival in mind, right?
Mhm.
Because we know we lose too many women to breast cancer, and especially because it's been caught late. Like I think that's like the common denominator amongst many different diseases and comorbidities when it comes to people of color. It was caught too late. By the time they get to the doctor, they're in late stages. But we
Mhm.
don't want to be in late stages, and so the only way to combat that is really understanding what your rights are as a patient, and also understanding your body, right?
Mhm.
Welcome, Sovereign Ease. Greetings, greetings. I'm sorry to hear this. She says, I'm sorry to hear that, whoop whoop, but you have the capacity to advocate for yourself. Absolutely. And
Yes.
also, I wanted to mention about fear because there it was maybe 2 years ago. I was speaking with my mother before she transitioned, and she was like really upset. And I was asking her, and her diagnosis was not breast cancer. It was cardio. She had cardiovascular issues,
Mhm.
and I said to her, well, what's wrong? Like, why don't you go? Because I wanted to hear like what the reason was, and she needed to like say it out loud.
Mhm.
And she said,
Mhm.
I'm afraid of what they might say. And
Mhm.
so and in that moment it was like, this is the reality for many people, especially many people of color and of a certain generation. I'm
Mhm.
afraid of what they're going to tell me. So like, sometimes like that there's something wrong, because but I'm fearful of what the information might be that's going to be bad. It's better that I don't hear it at all. And how many times do we move like that? And so, definitely making sure that we have information. That's exactly what True Health Live is. Spread the information around. This is what is to help us, so that we all have information on what we're doing.
Mhm.
And also, this is the reason why community is important, because if you are, you have faith, you're surrounded by your community, you move differently, right? So it was really important to make sure that people were with her on her visits, and that she just had to get it. It's like, but it's better that we know, so let's go find out what's happening so that we know what
Mhm.
we can do to address the issue, because that's the other thing. If you don't know, then how are you going to address it, right?
Exactly. I see some things in the chat.
Yeah. That Sovereignty says, I want to add to that piece, Deidre, because another crucial part is the need for a deep family dialogue about some of the medical issues that the other women and men in our families have endured.
Family
And we
history.
don't talk about them, right? There might be some women who do have a family history of breast cancer, but they don't know,
Mhm.
because some families and cultures do have that, or groups of people and populations do have that culture of silence,
Mhm.
right? And there's not a talking, and some of it is because, well, the doctors knows best, so I'm not really going to talk about it. That I'm only going to talk to the doctor about it. It manifests in many different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But family history is very important, very important. And so if we know that we didn't talk about it before, but we are well educated now and have this awareness now, then it's up to us to break that barrier, right? Of not being able to have these conversations in our households, with our families, with our daughters, our sons, our nieces, nephews, just with our families, because you can't you can't fix what you don't know is broken, right? In a
Mm-hmm.
sense, right? So if you don't know something exists, if you don't know that this gene is living inside of you, then how do you know to be preventative in that way?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very important. And so that is very true. I like in my family, I can only go back to my grandparents, and they all have on both sides have passed on. And so even to that, it was very limited. And so I have to figure out ways and try to navigate how I can talk to other family members to see what they know, just to kind of get my history, my family history,
Mm-hmm.
and also for my daughter, we're doing genetic testing with her because her dad is adopted, and so we don't have any kind of information on his side of the family, his biological side. And so for me, I just want to know, like, okay, and I want her to know, like, if there's anything we should be aware of, how do we get about this, how do we be preventative, you
Yeah.
know and cancer, just cancer, period. That's a very scary word. Whenever you
Mm-hmm.
hear that, it's just very frightening. But a while times ago, people thought cancer equated to death. That's not true. Not now. Technology has gone so above and beyond. The medicine has and science has gone above and beyond that people are living through cancer,
Right.
breast cancer, um, people are thriving, women are thriving, and survivorship is more, right? But what you have to understand too is that you just have to be you have to do your due diligence,
Mm.
right? It is a team effort. It's a unification of having a support system, and also for your care team to be supportive and
Yeah.
have those open conversations and work with you.
Yeah, and I like that you said, you did it also for your daughter. So for those of us who have women to be, blossoming wounds, coming behind us, whether they're blood related or not, it is helpful to be able to turn around and say, this is what I've been through, or this is what happens when you become an adult, or these are the things that you have to watch out for as you grow into womanhood, thinking about those that come behind, because it's we're saying, yes, know your body, do your self breast examinations. If you find something, go to the doctor, but also educate yourself on what it is, because then it doesn't just sit with you. It's, let me share with those coming behind me. It's like the pay it forward, so based on my experience, how do I make this into something that can be learned from for the ones coming behind, whether it's negative or positive, right?
Each one teach one,
Right.
right?
And that's where community, and we talked about community,
All the
but
yeah,
it's related.
and community is within our household. It's our neighbors, right? It's the general population. And as women of color, as Black women, we have to make sure that we teach our children about every and anything. And when it comes to like breast cancer, the women in our lives, the young women in our lives, the more they know at an earlier stage, the more preventative they can be, right?
Exactly.
And that each one teach one model will replicate itself, right?
Hmm.
And so instead of us finding out at stage 4, when we haven't been able to see the doctor or get in front of a healthcare professional, we are going to beat it, where some of us are going to just stay on top of it, and it's like, okay, I'm doing this preventative measure. But if we were to feel something at an early stage, it can be treatable
Right.
and doesn't have to equate to stage 4 at all. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I see the chat going off, so
Yeah. Like,
whatever
oh.
that.
Sarini says, "You don't know, sis, and I am afraid to say it. Then becomes a curse, and
Mm,
a generational curse, and and then the next, those coming behind have to figure out a way to break it." I think my mom, when that I know of, like, she did have breast examinations, but we didn't talk about them.
mm,
She did have a mammogram. I remember asking her, but I don't think she went necessarily regularly. And we didn't talk about them. And so now that I'm of that age, like, we've never had a conversation about whether it runs in our family. I think at this point I would know. There's been no one, in the immediate, like, aunts, grandmothers, like, that
mhm.
have struggled with that. So it's like, okay, it may not run in the family, but we never had conversations about, okay, now it's time, make sure you're getting screenings. Did you, what was your self examination like? Have you found anything? Like, these are the conversations that need to be had. And because now, had we had those conversations when I went for my first mammogram, I may not have been as nervous as I was, right? Because what happens is, if they're not able to see everything once you go on the machine with the plates, they actually will do like a physical ultrasound.
Yes.
And if that happens, and they tried to tell me, they were like, it's not a big deal. It's just like, if they can't see everything, or if they may see something, we'll do like the physical ultrasound. And then when they came back to me and they were like, okay, the radiologist wants to do an ultrasound, I literally had a meltdown in my head, because
Mm,
I was like, I didn't know. And so come to find out, and this is when I learned, like, I have some dense tissue. And so they just wanted to check a little extra, a little more, and everything was fine. But had I known, and had we been having these conversations, and had I done them like more often, that would have been, like, okay, it's probably because of they're really dense, um, you know, and this is what it is. That's the nature. That's like the natural state of my breast.
mhm.
So yeah, have those conversations, so that they don't become generational curses. Naya says, true sovereignty, sometimes when it comes out, it's when one person finds out and another family member will then share information, when it
Yes.
could have been preventative info instead of relatable. That's a good
Good
point.
point.
And to Naya's point, like, in Anulet Global, in our womb room series, like, we had a conversation similar to this, but regarding the womb and wound care issues. And and I think we did have a similar conversation on True Health Live about advocating for yourself when it comes
Mhm.
to reproductive health, because we know a lot of things are happening right now regarding reproductive health
Yeah.
and the right, to make decisions on your body. And it's like, even beyond that, it's like, when you're, same thing with the breast cancer, if you're finding something or you're feeling something, make sure you put pressure on the clinician or whoever it is you're talking to, whether it's a nurse practitioner, the physician assistant, the nursing assistant, and the doctor, him or herself. This is what's happening. Push for, the blood test if you need it. Push for a scan if you need it, so we can see, or they can see, because it's not going to be me in there, so
Mhm.
they can see, like, what's happening inside, so
Mhm.
that any symptoms that you're exhibiting, or that you're reporting that you're exhibiting, can be addressed, right?
Absolutely.
um and then it's not like this happened to me. I went for my ultrasound, I went for my mammogram, and they said XYZ. Maybe it's not good news. And then you have a family member, oh, that happened to me, and no one knew, But if it was shared, then it's like, okay, when you're the next time you see a clinician, if you do, go for whether you go for like more naturopathic or homeopathic or allopathic medicine, you can share that as part of your medical history.
Mm-hmm.
Like depending on the relationship or the how close that relative is, because it makes a difference. It matters. Sabernit says, true, true, true. Three truths. True, true, true. The name cancer has crippled many into shriveling up and giving up. We need those stories of victory and healing to inspire other men and women to get through it. And I'm glad you said that, because men get breast cancer as well. So, and I know I said, we talk about women. Women are more affected, but I want to make sure that I'm being open and honest across the board. Men do also suffer from, some men do also suffer from breast cancer, and can be at risk from for um, being diagnosed or having breast cancer. I wanted to
Part of that too is the LGBTQ plus community as well. I think quite often we're so used to being a woman's disease that, and we forget that men also can carry that, but also like for those who are transgender as well. um that particular community, we have to also be mindful and advocate with them as well. But something I do want to touch on is our healthy lifestyles, because a lot of times these diseases, if they're not hereditary, the healthier we live, the better for ourselves. So choosing wisely what you put into your body, um, giving yourself time to just take a mental break, because stress and worry causes sickness. And so the healthier lifestyle really plays a part in how you navigate through your overall well-being. So regardless if you're diagnosed with breast cancer or not, or any kind of sickness, make sure that you are taking in foods that your body needs for
yeah.
nourishment, right? So the good nourishing food. Make sure you're staying active and moving. You don't have to be in the gym for 2 hours or even 1 hour, but stay a little bit active so that your body doesn't fall asleep, right? So that you things don't hurt when they don't need to hurt. Because and I take my and I've started doing many things because I realized that, wait, I'm a little sensitive in like my calf, and I was never sensitive there because I'm
Mhm.
not walking enough, I'm not moving enough. But
Yeah.
all of that goes hand in hand. Of course, like staying on your routine appointments, so like your annual physical, your annual exams, staying on
Mhm.
top of those things, having a healthy lifestyle, working in movement into your day to day. All those take part, and also really being mindful of your mental and emotional health as well. That
Mhm.
is very key to just as much as movement and exercise. That is very important as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I did 3 hours today. I went for a 7 mile walk slash run, and I'm in pain, but it's a good
It's
pain.
good pain. It's good pain, right?
I was in the kitchen cooking. I was like, "But everything hurts from the waist down. I'm in
Right.
pain."
I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you wish you had well, I utilize my daughter. I'm like, listen, my daughter, I got to tell you guys, has for me healing hands. Whenever this girl puts her hands on me, if I'm in pain, it goes away, and I'm not kidding. And I'm just like, oh wow, like if I have a stomach ache and she puts her hand on my stomach, it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna make use of this. So if I'm exercising or I'm moving more than normal and I feel aches, I have her rub the area so it can go away, because you know we're not celebrities where we have our own personal masseuse waiting for us after we do all
Right.
of this workout and work
Right.
and whatnot. So you make do with what you can, or you soak or whatnot. But all in all, that is to just so you can have an overall great life experience as we navigate our lives, because it's so many things happening, right? Every day there's something to think about. Like this month we're
Yeah.
focusing on breast cancer, but breast cancer is every day. Cancers are everyday sickness. So you have to know how you're living and what you're doing so that you can kind of amplify the best lifestyle you can for yourself, right?
Yeah.
So you can be at your healthiest, at your best, where the brain fog is not there, and you can really do what you have to do so that you could be your best.
It's interesting you said healing hands. I just listened to Chiquita's podcast. It's Chief Yuya, the lifestyle of a royal man, and his latest podcast, number 76. It literally talks about how to be a healer and like what it means like for people who are gonna lay hands on you. Like there's different things that have to be in place, like and what to watch out for. So for those of you who are interested, make sure you can download it on iTunes, Spotify, I think Bandcamp as well. And it's Chief Yuya, episode 76, How to Be a Healer. And something else you said, maybe it was something I read in the chat. Sabrina says, Anushka, that's an excellent point. We have to also be proactive about the removal of she said I thought of that episode. Like as soon as you went like she has healing hands, I was like, oh says we have to be proactive about the removal of foods, chemicals, and other items that have been shown to be carcinogenic. Yeah. And it's hard, everybody's on like the vegan kick, some of it is very trendy. And I think what we have to watch out for is like just things that are coming out that substitute lab food just to be substitutes for the junk food, right? We don't need the substitute junk food. There's plenty of beans, vegetables, all those things that we can eat and make it taste good. And don't get me wrong, I love comfort food. You can have comfort food that's plant-based. It's there, trust me. Like, because there are chunky vegans. Yes, all that gourmet stuff without like processed lab food where they're using meat byproducts anyway. So look at the ingredients. Make sure whenever you buy it, turn it over and look at the ingredients.
My brother-in-law and his wife they're vegans, and so they've introduced me to so many things, and I'm like, oh wow. and they're very I won't say strict, but they have a way of just making it fun and like it's not work. Sometimes people, the way they explain how to prepare the foods and how to do this, it just seems like a lot of work, and that becomes discouraging for someone who's new to it, right? Yeah. They don't do that at all, and so I've learned a lot, and I've incorporated in my day to day. I'm true transparency. We still do eat meat, but I don't eat red meat. I don't eat pork. So I'm slowly but surely turning things around so for my family and my household, and and it's like a domino effect, because then it goes on to like their mom and whatnot, and other family members. And so again, it starts with just one person, and that person sharing. And sometimes when you tell folks, they don't want to listen, but here, have some vegetarian or vegan tacos. And that's how he got me, because I was like, oh wow. It was all vegan. And sometimes you just gotta make the move and introduce the person and give them something to engage in with you, so that they can see. Because a lot of times people they have tunnel vision, and they just think and are stuck in that one way because they don't have any other perspectives to kind of like to think about.
Yeah. I just remember a few things while you were talking. I'm like, you know what? Yes, you're exactly right. It starts with one person. I will say I tried to introduce my family, and they almost burned me at the stake. So everybody has their process, and they have their time. Because I get it. Like that bird is a hard thing to give up. But for me, it was like culture, and I follow, and I try. I won't say like I'm the best at it. I will not lie. I try to make sure that I follow Levitical law, and it's like that bird is no good. So it's like touch the bird. But I understand as someone who used to love to eat that bird, that chicken, it's hard to give up. Just like the cheese. But eventually, if you really try at it, you can do it.
Yeah.
But so I'm never the one like after, I tried it with my family, like, oh, try this, eat that. And it's just like, you get the funny looks. It's like, get out of here. What was that? What were you trying to do? So it's like, everybody has their own time. So I don't force it on anybody, but for me, like, it's important, like at least use the platform to talk about like it's good to be cognizant about what we put in our bodies and really focus on nutrition, because that also feeds, disease. What we eat what we ingest can also turn into disease. And it's not, it's not necessarily like just what you eat. It's in combination with what the animal ate, right? How stressed are you? what else is in your environment? Like it's all these myriad of things that we have to be cognizant of.
Mhm.
But but even still, it's definitely a collective of what's ingested into the body, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. Um, and not only that, too, just again, I always come back that sometimes all it takes is a conversation, you know? And being and I want to tie something back into Tiger Lily because I gotta tell you, I love Tiger Lily's mission. I love what they do. I love the way we serve our community, serve the women that work
Yeah.
with us. So in the program, the Angel Advocacy Program, our patients are who we call angels.
Yes.
Uh, and these women are phenomenal women, right? They're either in treatment, or they're survivors, or they're caregivers, or even allies, right? So you don't necessarily have to have had breast cancer or have it to be a part of this program. You can sign up. It's free, by the way. Every program, everything that Tiger Lily offers is free, because again, we know there are financial barriers, and how can we fully serve the community if we have all these barriers? And Tiger
That
Lily has
that's
taking that barrier down.
yeah.
So I have to give it to them. But you go and you sign up for the program, you find not only is it a community, but it's a sisterhood as well, right? So you have other women who can share experiences, who can give you advice, and vice versa as well. They have a 24/7 prayer line if folks need to, talk and need that spirituality, need that type of a group. They also have like what we call Pure Cat. And so that initiative is amazing. So you have yoga, meditation, sound baths, all of those things. You just go on the website, you click, you see the calendar, and you can join it. They have a plethora of programs that are free and toolkits. For example, as we were talking about advocacy, how to have the bidirectional conversation, there is a toolkit to have that with your provider. Financial toxicity, geographical barrier toolkits. It's about 13 of them. I don't remember from the top of my head, but if you go on their website, Deidre, I'll send
I
you
can
the
put it
link.
in the
You
description, but
put in the link, yes. If you
read
go,
it out. I'll put it in the description as well.
so it's www.tigerlilyfoundation.org. Go to the website and go and just explore it. There's many offerings, and I really highly recommend that folks go ahead and just kind of weed through the different pages, go to the programs. You can see all the things that they have to offer and take full advantage of it. If you want to know how to talk to your doctors and talk about, like, how advocacy, if you know someone that's has breast cancer, or that is currently in treatment, or through survivorship or reoccurrence, and they need support, look at Tiger Lily, their page, because they have a ton of resources for folks. And you can always get in touch with people there. Hit the contact, and within 24 hours, someone's going to get in touch with you. Or if you need me to connect you, I'm happy to do that. But please take advantage. And for the Pure Cat initiatives, like the yoga and the meditation and all those good stuff, you don't have to be a part of the organization. You can just go and sign up and do the classes. So you don't, even if you don't do the training for the Angel Advocacy Program, you can still be a part of like the Pure Cat and do that. And as I said, it's free, because those are things that we normally would pay for, right?
Yeah,
Go to a
that's
yoga studio and all that stuff. It's sound baths,
yeah.
and
It's
here you can do it.
virtual.
It's virtual.
That's awesome.
All the instructors are all professionals. And so where they have studios, so where you would go to the studio, instead you go through Tiger Lily, you still have the same instructors, same expertise and whatnot, and in the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned something about like what the training goes over, like the financial.
So financial toxicity, that's one of
Tax-
the barrier toolkits. So when you go onto the website, and you go into, I believe it's either programs or the homepage, you'll see it'll say one on the drop down, barrier toolkits. And you
Mhm,
just go on it, and it has a list of the different toolkits. You click on it, you can print it out, or you
mhm,
can download it, whichever one. If you have a provider that you want to share it with, because there's ones that are provider driven, so you
mhm.
give it to you can say, well, you know what, he may need some more insight from a different perspective. You can print that, download it, email it, or hand it to them and have them review it. It's you really want to, what Tiger Lily really wants, one of the things that they really want to do is create that bi-directional conversation,
Mhm.
because a lot of times the doctors are trained specifically, like you said early on, right? They just know what they know and came to do what they got to do. And not all of them can have that bidirectional conversation. You
Yeah.
want your doctor to be able to talk to you where you can talk to them and exchange information, ask questions, and work together in your
Right.
care, right? And so a lot of times that's not happening, especially, and I can't emphasize enough about with, Black and brown patients. And we need to break that barrier because it's only causing more and more stress on us as patients. And our mortality rates are going up, and that's
Yeah.
not something that we want, right? So that's one thing. And then also for yourselves to be self advocates. And it's easy to say, like I said before, but if you go through the training, you'll have the tools, you'll
Mhm.
have all the community to help you prepare yourself. So it's not like, hey, go ahead, go talk to your doctor. No, we're going to train you how to talk to your doctor. We're going to give you examples. We're going to sit and go through all of these things with you. If you need us to be present, we're there. You know what I mean? They're in the sense of like, okay, we got you. If you need a prep call, whatever it is that you need support with, the Tiger Lily team is there to do so.
Yeah. What were some of the conversations or experiences that were shared by some of your angels when they would do like their public speaking events?
Oh, sure. Well, so it's always so funny because when these women, a majority of them are already doing work in their community, right?
Hmm.
Because they've gone through this journey and they're still going through it. And the reason why they're part of Tiger Lee is because they want that community and they want their stories to be told and they
Yeah.
want to help other women just like them, right? And so when they have the opportunity to speak, they are excited, right? They're super excited because everyone has a different journey. Maybe the same disease, but the journey looks very different. And I
Yeah.
have women who are like, who come up to me and they're like, thank you, whether it's an email or phone call or if it's in person, like thanking us for that opportunity to have their voices uplifted. And not only are they sharing with who's in the room, but they're also sharing externally as well, because whatever conversations and talks are being had in that particular area goes out to other people. For example, I had folks, we went to Essence Festival this year and I spoke, and one of my angel advocates who's a lead, she also spoke and shared her story. And it was so much networking and so many women in the room that we connected with, that she particularly connected with, and
Mhm.
more opportunities were born from just sharing her story. And that's what we want. Doctors are reaching out to our patients, to our
Yeah.
advocates, right? Doctors, scientists, because for clinical trials, for example, for one, there's trust. There's a trust issue with clinical trials for our people, for many obvious reasons, right? And then also, they aren't coming to us. Those running those trials aren't coming to us in our communities to say, would you like to be a part of this, or explain it to us? And then how do you really have a clinical trial when you don't have everybody, when it's not so inclusive,
Right.
right? That
Right.
means you're only serving one,
Right. So
one kind
your
of a particular
data,
group.
your
So,
data's a little skewed because it's not, and then
right,
we have, and a lot of the stats that we have, right? The stats come from research. But if the research doesn't include everybody, then how can we be sure that the numbers and the information that we get from that is accurate?
or
You know,
reflects
or
us,
reflects us, right?
right, right. So,
That about the clinical trials because they're not always accessible to everyone.
mhm, exactly, and that's why for me, that's why I was so drawn by Tiger Lee. It wasn't just one thing. They did everything for any part of cancer, but the breast cancer they touched it. Like whatever it included, like I said, all those barriers in the clinical trial. So we have patients working together with our program managers, and I keep saying we because it's still like I'm still linked to them, right? Because I believe in that mission,
Yeah, yeah.
and I
That's
believe in that
still a
work.
client, right?
So you get to be a part of those conversations. Not only do you have a seat at the table, but you're having those conversations, you're taking part in the material that is developed, as well as the program and what that clinical trial looks like. So your story, your perspective, all of that is being shared with, and all of that is being amplified. So that's why I encourage everyone to just take a look at the website, because it's so many resources that you can take from it for yourself, for your loved one, for your community. If you work for an organization that's interested, you can pull from there as well, or you can connect with somebody and they will be sure to send you that material.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't hurt, right? It's at no cost to you. You have nothing to lose. The only thing you do have is to gain knowledge and awareness and be able to teach other community members, other loved ones about breast cancer and how to be preventative. And if you are going through it, how do you get the resources that you need or that you seek? And then thereafter, what does survivorship look like? What do I
Yeah.
do after? Because a lot of times it's so much going into to the treatment portion, but no one very rarely do people talk about what the aftermath looks like. And life still goes on after breast cancer. And so Tiger Lily touches on survivorship as well. There's a lot of organizations that do that too, but sometimes we don't know about it. I would say start with Tiger Lily. They're amazing and they have all the resources. And if they don't have the resources, they know another organization that does and can link you.
That's
And it's
awesome.
not just for men. I want to say that because when you go, it's like all pink and stuff. It's not, I mean, it's just not for women, but men, you can get resources as well. You can utilize the Pure Cat stuff, that program too, if you like. And if you want additional information for things that are for men for breast cancer, you just reach out to them and they'll link you to their partners.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really important to know that, like, it's not just something suffered by women. Like,
Hmm.
larger, when women are the larger group that get it because we have more breast tissue. But it is definitely something experienced by our complementary sex and gender as well. Sovereignty says, talk the truth. Doesn't that make it invalid? I think she's talking about the research. So it doesn't make it invalid. What it is, it's how it's interpreted and how it's talked about.
Hmm.
Because the results are showing what was analyzed, right? Based on who was part of the study or whatever evaluation it is. So whatever the numbers of the outcomes are, they're reflective of who was in the study. So it's not necessarily invalid, but we have to be cognizant of how this information is interpreted and then promoted.
Yeah.
So if there's a study that says, like, such and such percent of women in this area have breast cancer, it's like, okay, well, which women, right? So then that's what, like, what's the demographic breakdown? And many studies do that. They definitely do. At the same time, we want to make sure that we're drilling down, because a lot of the times we'll get the overall information about, like, oh, we'll get very generalized information. But this is why it's important to dig deeper into a study. So when you see a news report or an article about new study results, don't just take the sensational headline. Dig deep into the research and the study to see what the actual numbers are, and, like, the smaller numbers, right? Not just the one that was, like, compelling. That's what we want to do when it comes to health promotion and research. Yeah, we want to give the information that is most compelling. At the same time, it is really important to still look at look at everything, because it paints a larger picture. It's like, you don't want to. It's like not necessarily paying attention to the brushstrokes. The brushstrokes are what make the painting, right? So it's not just taking in the painting and saying, like, oh, this is the beautiful thing. Look at the brushstrokes too, right? Okay, just
Mhm.
a moment. So yeah, like, definitely digging deeper into research. And everybody is not necessarily able to interpret research, but this is why you can go and ask questions. This is why we have shows like True Health Live, like, because we want to make sure that people are understanding, like, the information that's out there. So if you are a watcher or a listener, someone who's not in public health, or even if a public health student and you're not necessarily, and you're kind of new to, like, how to interpret research, definitely give us a call. If you want us to have a conversation about a particular study or information that's out there, this is what we do. Always, the floor is open for all sorts of voices and commentary. You can add your 2, 4, 6, 8 cents if you want to. We just keep it respectful, right? So that's our show for today. Nishka, do you want to add anything else? Give thanks so much for sharing about Tiger Lily. We'll be
Yes.
sure to put it in the description box, and all a link to, like, the resources page that they have. It's really important for those of you who maybe you are in the survivorship stage. So if you don't have any resources or something to kind of reach out to, or kind of, stabilize yourself into like, how do I continue on after diagnosis, post diagnosis, post surgery. This is a really good program. This is a really good program to look into. So we'll definitely make sure to share that information in the box. Peace, Yakira Eden. She couldn't be here with us, but I'm glad you're in the chat. And thank you so much, Sovereignties and Naya, for having questions. This is what I want to say. You talked about, like, we were talking about when we're in pain, having baths. I know somebody who takes a royal bath every night. She's like, I'm preparing the royal bath right now. I'm like, that.
Awesome. I just want to thank you all for joining us tonight. And just as a reminder, make sure you get your breast examined. Keep up with your annual mammography, and then just do your own self-examination on a monthly basis. And if you feel something, say something, right?
Yes. So
and have the conversations with the family.
Yes.
Break the silence and have the conversation.
Right. Break the silence. Break the generational curse of silence.
We're not
doing that no more. We're not holding it in, because that in and of itself becomes toxic.
Yes.
Chronic toxicity.
And you can save somebody that you love by having that conversation and sharing the information and sharing past experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that is our show, our True Health Live. Join us in 2 weeks, and we'll be coming back with some more great information. We actually are going to try to continue this conversation with 2 or 3 angels from the Tiger Lily. Yes. So hopefully, like, they'll be able to join us next time, and we will see you in the forward.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe.